Most people hear this story and think, okay, another company got breached. No customer data headline, no passwords dumped, no immediate chaos. So the instinct is to shrug. But that instinct is wrong because Target was not just hacked, it was studied. What happened here is not a smash and grab. It's not cybercrime in their classic sense. It's strategic exposure. When internal source code leaks, the damage doesn't explode, it just accumulates. This is not about what attackers took today. It's about what they now understand forever. They didn't steal customer data. They stole how the company thinks, how systems are designed, how risks are accepted, how trust flows internally. And that creates something far more dangerous than a breach, a permanent asymmetric advantage. This is reconnaissance, long-term, patient, deliberate, and if you're still thinking, okay, but what's the real impact? That's exactly the question attackers want you to ask. Let's quantify what this actually means without drowning in numbers. We're talking about hundreds of gigabytes of internal material, but size is not the story. Capability is. Because what was exposed here is not just source code, it's internal microservices, CI/CD pipelines, deployment logic, configuration patterns, legacy components no one remembers anymore. And here's the key shift in mindset. Attackers don't need your secrets anymore. They don't need passwords, they don't need keys, they need patterns. When you expose source code at this scale, you are revealing how authentication is usually handled, how validation is normally done, where shortcuts were taken, what was considered good enough. You are showing basically adversaries how decisions are made under pressure. And that's priceless because now they can search for vulnerabilities at leisure, simulate attacks offline, map trust boundaries with precision, rehearse exploits for months or even years. And this is not about breaking in fast, it's about breaking in perfectly. You can rotate passwords, of course, you can revoke tokens, but you cannot rotate architecture. And once that understanding is out in the wild, it never comes back. Let's stop thinking at this like defenders for a moment. If I were the attacker, this leak would be a dream scenario because time is now on my side. I don't need to rush. I don't need to be noisy. I don't even need to touch production systems. I can sit back and study. I can trace trust boundaries. See which services, for example, trust each other by default. Find where validation is assumed instead of enforced. And that's where real vulnerabilities live. Not in missing patches, but in dangerous assumptions. With a source code, I could identify brittle services, spot weak validation paths, understand error handling behavior, map how failures cascade, and here's the part that almost never gets discussed. I can simulate attacks offline. I can rehearse exploitation paths, refine payloads, test edge cases over and over for months, for years. By the time I touch the real environment, I'm not experimenting, I'm just executing. This is why modern attacks feel so precise, so surgical, so inevitable. They are not improvised, they are rehearsed. Now let's zoom out a bit. Because this story doesn't end with one company. It never does, actually. Modern enterprises don't operate alone. They are hubs in massive, invisible networks. Vendors, partners, integrations, shared libraries, copied CI/CD logic, and when internal code leaks, something dangerous happens. Patterns propagate. Developers reuse snippets. Vendors mirror workflows. Third parties adopt internal conventions without realizing it, which means attackers don't just learn one environment, they learn an ecosystem. And here's the underreported uncomfortable truth. With this level of insight, attackers can now craft perfectly legitimate looking commits. Code that passes review, code that blends in, code that looks like business as usual. This is how next generation supply chain attacks are born. Not through malware, not through exploits, but through trust. The most dangerous malware doesn't trigger alerts. It looks like a pull request. And once trust is compromised at this level, the blast radius extends far beyond the original victim. As I said, to vendors, partners, customers, and everyone connected, even if they have never or they never knew they were connected at all. When people hear usually cyber attack, they instinctively think ransomware. Money in, money out, crime as usual. But that framing is very much outdated right now because not all threat actors are chasing quick payouts. Some are collecting leverage. This kind of source code exposure enables multiple motivations at once. Yes, financial resale, but also strategic intelligence gathering, economic destabilization, and something far more subtle, capability seeding. This is where geopolitics enters the picture. Large Western retail giants are not just companies, they are civilian logistics infrastructure. They move food, medicine, essentials at national scale. And in crisis scenarios, natural disasters, geopolitical tension, conflicts, retail disruption is not just an inconvenience, it's social destabilization. Understanding how these systems are built, where they are fragile, how they fail under pressure, that knowledge has value for beyond crime. This is not about attacking today, it's about pre-positioning for tomorrow. This is not cybercrime, it's considered reconnaissance with strategic patience. Now let's make this a bit more personal because the cost of this kind of exposure doesn't stay inside boardrooms or SOCs. It lands on you as well. Every security incident creates security debt, and that debt is never absorbed by the company. It's passed downstream. Higher security costs become higher prices. Risk aversion slows innovation. Surveillance increases. Friction becomes normal. More checks, more delays, more monitoring. You don't see the breach. You feel it at the checkout, in subscription prices, in reduced convenience, in lost trust. Cybersecurity failures are now a hidden tax. Quiet, distributed, normalized. And the more systemic these incidents become, the more invisible and permanent that tax gets. This is why dismissing source code leaks as non-events is dangerously short-sighted, because the impact doesn't explode, it just accumulates, as we said. After incidents like this, companies usually do respond, but not in the way people imagine. You will see access reviews, Git repositories get locked down, security statements are issued, and that's not nothing, of course, but let's be honest. What will not happen is far more important. There will be no full code rewrite, no architecture reset, no clean slate, because at enterprise scale, those things are economically impossible. The hard truth is this: once code is out, it's never an out. That knowledge doesn't expire, it doesn't get patched, it just waits. And here's the most dangerous misconception. People expect impact now. But this kind of exposures is rarely exploited immediately. It shows up after years, or it shows up years later, in attacks that feel unexpected. In breaches, no one connects back to this moment. In incidents, everyone calls sophisticated. They were sophisticated because the groundwork was laid long ago. All right, so we got to the end of this. Let's land this. We are moving away from a world where the goal is prevent every breach. That era is over. We are entering a world where the exposure is assumed and resilience is the strategy. Source code leaks are not anomalies anymore. They are a condition of operating at scale. The organizations that survive are not the ones with the most secrecy. They are the ones designed to withstand scrutiny. Because in 2026, your source code is probably already compromised. The only real question then becomes, were you built for that reality? If this briefing changed how you think about cyber incident, hit like please and tell the algorithms that matters. Subscribe to the Daily Signal for deep signal and no noise analysis, and check out the Battlefront Briefing playlist for more breakdowns where cyber meets geopolitics, economics, and real world impact. Until next time then, I'm Max, Point Break Security. Stay informed, stay skeptical, and please stay ahead.